It was amazing. Yeah, I need to do the same because I always constantly having problems with my mic or something. You see, it is all here, all with cables. All right, so let me introduce our Sandro, okay? He's an English language teacher, TOEFL trainer, speaker, digital entrepreneur, founder of TOEFL Success. It's online TOEFL preparation program, and co-founder of ELT Plus, which is an ELT membership program 100% designed for the professional development and growth of English language teachers in Brazil and abroad. Okay, so Sandro has fallen in love with foreign language teaching in the early 200s and has been a TOEFL teacher for 20 years. He's based now in Rio de Janeiro and has been delivering online TOEFL preparation, training, and other language learning solutions as teacherpreneur. So also he holds CAE, CPE, TKT modules, and C2 level DELA certificate, which is Spanish language. Wow, amazing. Thank you. All right, so let's give some claps again and applauses. Yes, to Sandro. What's the weather like in Rio de Janeiro today?
It looks wonderful, actually. It's a beautiful, beautiful day here. Great. Really sunny. It looks just perfect, like a summer day, although Amazing. It's not summer.
Yes, but anyway, we're all online here, so what does it do with the weather? Okay, let's get going. So the floor is yours, right? Welcome. Yes, so let's say hello.
All right, everyone, great to be here. Thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be a part of this event with Fabula Publishing. This morning, we're going to be talking about, let me just share my screen with you. Here we go. Okay, right. Can you all see my screen, by the way? Excellent, very well. Well, this session is called Successfully Preparing TOEFL IBT Takers. Okay, this section is called Successfully Preparing TOEFL IBT Takers. And as I said, it's a real pleasure and honor to be here. We're going to be talking about the different sections on the exam, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions by the end of this talk. All right. All right, first question I'd like to share is, what is the TOEFL IBT? Okay. The TOEFL IBT is an international exam, all right, and TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language. IBT stands for Internet-Based Tests, okay? ETS is a North American educational organization in charge of the exam. ETS manages the TOEFL IBT here in Brazil, in Russia, I'm sure, as well as in other countries where the test is administered. It is 100% computer delivered, and the TOEFL test is the world's premier English language test for university, study, work, and immigration as well, okay? I'm gonna start by talking about the test format, first of all. There has been a few updates on the exam, right? In August, in 2019, there were some few and very interesting updates in the exam, and I'd like to start by talking about that, because these days there are fewer questions per reading passage. There will be 3 to 4 reading passages and 10 questions each. And here, test takers are supposed to spend on average 54 to 72 minutes. The second section, listening, these days there are fewer academic lectures. There used to be more. Nowadays there are 3 to 4 lectures, and students are supposed to complete 6 questions here each. There will be 2 to 3 conversations as well, and 5 questions here are completed per conversations, and students are supposed to spend on average 41 to 57 minutes on the second section. Very well. The third section, speaking, there used to be 6 questions. These days, there are 4 only. 1 that ETS calls independent speaking task, and 3 called integrated. Here, very quick, 17 minutes only, and students are done with the speaking. Finally, last section, but not least important, writing. There were no changes. There used to be 2 questions, and the test still reflects 2 essays, one integrated and another one called independent. And here, the students will spend on average 15 minutes. Very well. I'm going to start approaching each of those sections, okay? Reading, listening, speaking, and writing. I'm going to show you how they work, share some tips with you, and let's get started. The first passage on the exam, the first section indeed, reading, it is worth 30 points. And that will be 3 passages or 4, depending on the exam, okay? Students are going to read on average 700 words, and that will be 10 questions per passage, right? Naturally, if the student's test features 3 tests, that will be 30 questions. In case the exam features 4 reading passages, of course, 40 questions. And okay, how long are students going to spend here? 50 minutes, okay, if there are 30 questions, if there are 3 passages. In case there are 4 passages, they will spend 72 minutes. And here, students are going to work for, on average, 18 minutes on each of the reading passages, reading and completing all the questions. Very well, I'd like to share a typical reading passage with you. This is what a typical reading passage will look like on the actual exam. And this is the very first tip I'd like to share with you. Candidates don't have to start by reading the passage through. That's not necessary at all. Why is that? Because students have access to the passage as they read the questions. So as you can see, we got the questions on the left, right? And they have the same reading passage on the right. So they have access to all the information as they approach the questions. Let's take a look at this first question. According to paragraph 1, the presidency of Andrew Jackson was especially significant for which of the following reasons? Okay, this is a factual information question. And what does that mean? That means that students will have to do skim reading here. They're going to find specific information in a given paragraph. In this case, of course, we are talking about the first paragraph with these highlighted area in yellow, okay? And as you can see, the key information that will lead them to the correct information, in this case, is worded differently, all right? And that way, this is something students are going to be dealing with in a factual information question, okay? Identify specific information. Very often, the key information is worded differently. They have to do this, and this is one of the reading sub-skills that will be measured on this first section, the reading passage, the reading section. Another kind of question I'd like to share with you. Here, we got a sentence simplification question, right? And in that case, there is a reading sub-skill that will be essential for student success on these tasks, right? Here, they're supposed to be dealing with paraphrasing, okay? Information will be presented to them in a way, in the highlighted sentence, and there will be 4 other sentences that will basically state the same kind of information using different grammar structure, maybe different vocabulary structure, and the students will have to identify which option will better express the essential information in this original sentence highlighted back in the passage, okay? And in this case, choice 4 contains all of this essential information in the original sentence. The order here is presented in reverse, all right? It is reversed. And this is something students have to pay attention to. Sometimes they will find the answer worded, presented like that, in inverted information, but you're going to have the same meaning as in the original sentence, right? One last reading task, one last reading strategy as well is summarizing. This is something that students really have to develop, summarizing passages. Here is a typical summary question. In this case, of course, the students are supposed to summarize the most important ideas in the passage, okay? And in that case, for that particular question, the students want to read the text through, okay? Why? They're going to do skim reading here instead of skimming. So it's a common, very popular fast reading technique in order to locate facts in a passage, okay? In this case, the first choice is correct because that will state a recurring theme throughout the entire passage if you go back and have a look, of course. The fifth option is also one of the most important ideas in the passage because it is a general statement about the differences between two parties that are being discussed in this reading passage. And the last one as well is another general statement about the differences between both parties. So the students will have, at this point of the exam, they will have to read and understand what are the main ideas in the passage. Moving on next, the second section, listening. Here, the section, just like reading, is worth 30 points. And the students will be presented with different materials like conversations, lectures, and classroom discussions. There will be 2 to 3 conversations on average, and the students will have to complete 5 questions here each. 3 to 4 lectures and classroom discussions as well, 6 questions each. Here, candidates are going to spend on average 41 to 57 minutes, okay? And I'd like to start by showing you a conversation. In this case, there is a student talking to a professor in his office, okay? And I'd like your attention to the question.
Why does the student go to see the professor?
Naturally, you won't have time to listen to the whole conversation. Conversations on the listening section last for around 2 to 3 minutes. So I just wanted you to focus on the questions. Okay, here we got a listening sub-skill, which is just purpose. This is a just purpose question. And in this case, we got a conversation during a professor's office hours. Very likely, the first question after a conversation that takes place in a professor's office hours is a just purpose question, okay? And you have to understand what the talk is about, what the discussion is about, okay? Just to a woman should write her graduate school application, right? And in that context, the second choice was the correct answer, right? She went to see the professor to get advice about her graduate school application. A second question I'd like to share with you.
What does the professor consider unusual about the student's background?
By the way, could you hear the question just fine? Lovely, okay. So in this second case, I got a message here in the chat. Yes, oh, thank you. All right, spasibo. Well, what does the professor consider unusual about the student's background? Again, as we didn't have time to listen to the actual conversation, we're just focusing on the listening sub-skill measured here. And this is a detailed question in this case, right? Candidates here are supposed to identify specific information stated in the talk, right? In this case, in this conversation, the professor mentions twice that the woman's decision to go from studying music to geology is unusual. And I think I agree with that professor. In that case, her music training is the unusual background that is supposed to be identified here, right? So we are listening for specific information. That's a detailed question. Well, we talked about listening to a conversation. Now we're gonna talk about listening to an academic lecture. Mind you that there will be mainly these 2 types of content materials on the TOEFL listening section: conversations and academic lectures, okay? In this case, I'd like to share this question only.
Why does the professor say this?
Now, why is this an issue? Well, aren't some of you going to want to live in this state for a while? Want your kids to grow up here and your kids' kids?
Very well. In this case, we have a new listening question type, which is understanding the function of what he said. You want to listen to understand the purpose, the reason why a speaker said something, right? And for that kind of question, test takers are supposed to develop vocabulary skills in context. They want to understand the specific words, what they actually mean, what the purpose of a phrase. And it's very common to deal with idiomatic expressions here, all right? In this context, the purpose of the professor is to point out to the students that over time, there will be serious consequences to depleting water. He thinks the student should consider the future of the state of Arizona. And this is a summary of the lecture, by the way. And according to that, the professor says that to encourage the students to care about the topic. Very well. This is 3 listening question types I'd like to share with you and some tips that can help you deal with the second section on the TOEFL IBT. The third section on the test, speaking here, 0 to 30 points, just like reading and listening. The students will be presented with an independent task first, and then 3 integrated tasks. Okay, what does the independent task look like, really? The students will hear a prompt that will present them with 2 ideas, and they will have to choose from one from those 2 ideas. Next, the question is about what they prefer, what their choice is, and the students will have to state what their preference, what their choice actually is. Next, they will have a few seconds for preparation, and finally, they go ahead and deliver their spoken response, okay? How about the integrated tasks then? Okay, why are they called integrated? Because they are actually integrating different language skills. Even though the section here is speaking, the students are actually going to do reading as well, okay? Not only reading, but candidates will also listen to materials that is related to the reading, okay? There will be a question asking them to relate the main points from the audio material and how these main points are actually related, connected with the points from the reading passage. Next, the students will have some seconds to prepare their ideas, organize their thoughts, and finally, they're gonna go ahead and deliver their spoken responses, okay? How long are they going to spend here? On average, 17 minutes, okay? And I'd like to share the instructions for the independent task. I'd like to share 2 tasks on the speaking section, the first one and the second.
In this question, you will be asked to talk about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds to prepare a response and 45 seconds to record the response. Some people who unexpectedly receive a large amount of money spend it on practical things, while others spend it for pleasure only. Which do you think is better and why?
Very well. As I said, there will be 2 options, first and second. The students will have 15 seconds to decide what their option is, what their position is, and then talk about their decision, okay? Very well. For doing that, I highly...
Begin to prepare your which do you...
Okay, we don't need the instructions now. For them to prepare their response in these 15 seconds, a sub-skill that I highly recommend and I find absolutely essential on the TOEFL speaking section is note-taking. Taking notes will be crucial for student success. After all, they have to take a little while to think about the task, to think about how they're going to deliver their response. And a platform that I share with my students, a tool that I share with them that I really like and I find useful is an outline, a template. And that way students know exactly the choice they're gonna make, the 2 arguments, okay, the 2 reasons they're going to present in order to support their response. And here they can also give a personal detail, some supporting detail, personal example, or supporting detail to back up their response, okay? And finally, they will have 45 seconds in order to deliver their response. Okay, that's what they call independent speaking. We're gonna move on now to an integrated task. And this is what it looks like.
In this question, you will read a short passage, listen to it. In this question, you will read a short passage, listen to a conversation, and answer a question about them. After you hear the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare a response and 60 seconds to record the response. A student has written a letter to the editor of City University's newspaper concerning the campus
Very well. We got this reading passage.
health center. You have 50 seconds to read the letter. Begin reading now.
Okay, as students read this passage for 15 minutes, they might want to consider taking notes again if they wish. Here, they could identify the topic of the passage, for example, and two main ideas that I introduced in the text. Next, they will listen to a conversation. And in this conversation, on question 2, there will always be 2 speakers on campus. And even though they are on a university campus, the content here of the conversation is not academic, okay? It's about something going on college campus, okay? And this is their interaction. You will notice that one of the 2 speakers will have a stronger view, okay? It could be either the man or the woman. So the first thing you want to do is to identify their speaker's viewpoint about the information in the reading passage. And mind you that the information in the reading passage will work like background information for their discussion. Whatever these 2 students say will be about the information in the reading, but you'll be asked mainly about what they talk about. So you want to focus on this conversation and identify the viewpoint of one of those speakers, either the man or the woman, and 2 reasons that they will give for holding that particular opinion. And this is a typical prompt for question 2, as you can see. The man expresses his opinion about the student's suggestions that are made in the letter. State the man's opinion and explain the reasons he gives for holding that opinion. So what do you want to do? You want to focus on the man's opinion as you listen to the conversation. Next, you want to identify the true reasons that speaker introduces for holding the particular view that he does, okay? So once again, you want to prepare your ideas, you want to take notes, you want to listen and make sure that you identify that person's opinion as well as the reasons he discusses, all right? So again, I share templates to help students build their response, prepare their thoughts, and that's what they're doing during the preparation stage, which here will take 30 seconds, and then they will have 60 seconds in order to deliver their response. Mind you that here we are integrating reading, listening, so that students finally speak. We got 3 language skills in a single task. That's why this is called speaking integrated, okay? Moving on next, I'd like to share pretty quickly the scoring criteria for the speaking, okay? The speaking, students' speaking development performance will be based on delivery, language use, and topic development. So ETS is basically expecting students to have clear and fluid speech, good pronunciation, natural pace, good intonation as well, right? That's basically how students will sound as they talk. What else? Language use. And here we are talking about good use of grammar, good use of vocabulary, structures to express their ideas. Another really relevant point here is topic development, okay? They are also going to pay attention to how you fully answer the question, how you clearly express your ideas, and also how you connect the different points you are addressing in your response. So all of those elements will be essential for students to know, right? And take into consideration as they practice speaking before eventually sitting the TOEFL test. And you have this information on YouTube, if you will. The last section I'd like to talk about is writing, okay? Here, 30 points, just like the other sections. That will be an integrated writing task and what they call independent writing task, or task 1, task 2, essay 1, essay 2, you name it. Okay, a little bit similar to what we just discussed, the speaking section, that will be this integrated task. And here students are also dealing with reading, listening, They are asked a question about information from the listening, as well from the reading, and the students are going to go on and start developing that first essay. In this case, the integrated essay. At this point, the students are able to take off their headphones because they're going to, their headsets. They're going to spend like 85, 90% of the test time with the headset, right? They might take it off and they're going to read on the second task a prompt, right? Straight to the point. There's just a prompt on screen, something that very often is, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? There will be a given statement on screen, something bold-faced, give specific reasons and details in your response. So students, again, they're gonna go ahead and start typing in their responses, okay? Let's talk about timing here. For the first writing task, the students are supposed to spend 20 minutes, okay? And in 20 minutes, they're expected to type in 150 to 225 words for a good score. Secondly, the second essay, students are going to spend on average 30 minutes, okay? And in 30 minutes, the students are expected to write at least 300 words for them to reach a good score as well, okay? Last, I'd like to share with you what a typical reading passage looks like on the writing essay 1. Here, we got a reading passage. The first paragraph, okay, is a topic statement where you'll find the topic of the essay. Next, that will be the first supporting paragraph with the first main point you want to read and identify, okay? Second, you got a second supporting point, second supporting paragraph with the second main idea discussed in the reading. And finally, there will be a third supporting paragraph introducing a new main idea that you also want to read, identify, and prepare, okay, with your notes. Next, students will be listening to a lecture. And here, you're going to listen to a professor addressing the very same topic as in the reading, the same topic. The difference is the perspective of the lecture might be different from the reading. The points in the lecture might oppose the ones in the reading. Maybe the lecture will actually support the ideas discussed in the reading. And this is something that you want to listen to understand. How is the lecture related to the reading, okay? So again, you listen to the professor and his or her main ideas about the information in the text. There will be a prompt like that on the bottom of the page, usually asking you to summarize the points made in the lecture as you listen and how they are related to the ones in the reading. Your essay will be 100% about this relationship between the main points discussed in the lecture and how they are interrelated with the main ideas in the reading, okay? You're gonna go on and start typing in your answer, right? Something that I usually share with my students that I believe is helpful is another outline for them to understand and organize these different steps more easily. As they read, okay, what is the topic of the text? And as they go through the body paragraphs, what are the main ideas, the main points in each of those paragraphs? This is something that they have to identify. Next, as they listen to this lecture, they want to understand the perspective. Does the lecture oppose, add, or does it provide a solution to problems presented in the reading? And then they will go ahead listening to the professor for those main points as well, okay? And this is what a typical reading passage will, essay, in fact, integrated essay will look like. It will discuss the topic according to the information in the reading in the passage, and the body paragraphs, supporting paragraphs will basically be connecting the relationship between the main points in each of the ideas, arguments approached, addressed by the professor, and the reading passage as well, okay? Just like speaking, I'd like to share some scoring criteria with you for writing, okay? You've got accurate development. That means how well did you select important information from the lecture? How well did you present, how well did you present information in relation to reading and listening? Because you are integrating both sources. So that has to be precise, that has to be accurate. Organization, all right, did you write in paragraphs? Did you use transitions? Besides that, however, furthermore, what's more, although, even though, despite, in spite of, and you also want to avoid redundancy, repetition. This is something you are expected to avoid. Language use. In this point, you want to make sure that you are using good to great sentence structures. Word choice as well is something to consider. Vocabulary, use of grammar. So accurate development, organization, language use are the scoring criteria for the first essay. Okay, I'll quickly show you what the second essay should look like. This is straight to the point. You got a prompt. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? You're going to, make up your mind, see what you defend, which option you defend, and you're going to go ahead and start typing in your response. Okay, there is no reading passage here or lecture. Okay, just going to go ahead and develop your essay with an introduction, body paragraphs, conclusions, also taking into consideration these scoring criteria as well. Very similar to the one we just read, but with a few differences. Okay, you can take a look at the YouTube Insider, the TOEFL test, so you can have further information. Well, that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. I'd like to thank you so much for your time this morning. I hope you have learned a bit more about the TOEFL IBT tests. And you got here all my information. Here you got my WhatsApp, my email address, my webpage, my Instagram account, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions in case you have any. Thank you. I hope you have a lovely event this Saturday.
Right. Thank